Hello everyone, today is 5th of March, now it's 9:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to media reports here in Russia, or reports of Russian military channels, there was no crucial changes on any of the sectors of the front line. It's artillery duels between the sides, local scale skirmishes, reckoning force operations, missile and drone strikes. For example, last night Russian armed forces conducted yet another wave of missile and drone strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of Kiev regime, and main direction was Odessa region. I report about it on my Telegram channel this morning. Well, let's go sector by sector. In Kherson direction, after Russian armed forces established full control basically over the Krinky settlement, once this clearing operation was finished in Krinky, of course, Russian forces now are more concentrated, which was expected, on Aleshki direction and towards these small footholds that Ukrainian side has right next to destroyed Antonovsky and railway bridges. Although yet again we are talking about just some minor foothold that don't really influence this overall situation on this sector of the front line. And as I understand, and as I predicted, by the way, a few days ago, now both sides most likely will concentrate on establishing control over as many islands in the Dnieper River and delta of Dnieper River as possible. And we are talking about dozens and dozens of islands, by the way. So overall situation is under full Russian control, of course, and the initiative is in Russian hands. Also, when it comes to Zaporozhye sector of the front line, which is formally recently become a part of Kherson sector, that's how Russian Defense Ministry is designating this area now. Well, according to latest reports, of course, main hotspots still are Orekhov bridgehead and Rabotina settlement itself, but we did not receive information about additional progress of Russian forces inside the Rabotina. Settlement is divided right now between the sides, and Russian armed forces, little by little, but improving positions in the fields in between Rabotina and Verbovo, between Verbovo and Novoprokopovka, and basically squeezing Ukrainian grouping of forces that are located on Orekhov bridgehead. It may not be fast operation. It's a slow operation, but still it does achieve its goal, which is to basically neutralize this bridgehead that Ukrainian armed forces have in Orekhov direction, and it will eventually happen, of course, in 2 weeks time, but there is no other way. Ukrainian forces eventually will be forced to withdraw from this area. When it comes to South Donetsk sector of the front line, main hotspot is of course Novomykhailovka settlement, and according to latest reports, Russian armed forces managed to achieve additional progress. This is, by the way, Novomykhailovka, this relatively small village, by the way, and right now southern eastern parts of Novomykhailovka is under full Russian control, and northern western parts are controlled by Ukrainian forces, although I believe Ukrainian armed forces don't really have much chances basically to remain in this settlement, and it's only a matter of I don't know, days, and maybe before end of this week Ukrainian forces will withdraw from Novomykhailovka towards Paraskoviivka or Konstantinovka. When it comes to Donetsk sector of the front line, on the southern flank of Donetsk, of course, main hotspot is Krasnogorovka village, and despite all the attempts of Kiev regime, and despite deployments of additional forces, Ukrainian forces from reserves towards Krasnogorovka, they were unable to stop Russian offensive or to force Russian units out of Konstantinovka, and the southern side of the railway in Konstantinovka is still controlled by Russian forces. Russian units are inside this settlement, and according to some other reports, Russian units resume offensive on Krasnogorovka from eastern side. Because Krasnogorovka is one of the last more or less battle-capable strongholds of Kiev regime in South Donetsk sector. Of course, it will take some time before Russian units will manage to establish full control over the settlement. And this is quite a big settlement, by the way, as you can see on the map. It's not like Novomikhailivka, it's like 10 times bigger. It's like small cities, so of course it will take time. When it comes to Avdiivka direction, main hotspots are of course still Toninka, Orlovka. This is Toninka, by the way, quite small village. This is Orlovka here, and Berdichi, of course. This is Berdichi area where Ukrainian armed forces lost at least 2 Abrams tanks in previous days. Battles are continuing for these settlements, and well, one may notice that seems like Kiev regime managed to stabilize frontline in Avdiivka sector, but well, point is that they managed to do so with very heavy casualties. According to Defense Ministry's report, Russian Defense Ministry's report, on daily basis, since the liberation of Avdiivka, Ukrainian armed forces on daily basis are losing 400 to 500 military personnel exactly on this line. Toninka, Orlovka, Berdichi, on Avdiivka direction, basically, which is a huge number, of course, huge number. It's a battalion, by the way, every single day, just in one direction. So question is how long Kiev regime will be, and Ukrainian armed forces that are still loyal to Zelensky and his associates will be able to sustain such high losses. And on daily basis, if you combine all the casualty numbers on part of Ukrainian side, according to Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian forces are losing at least 2 battalions, 2 to 3 battalions of military personnel and equipment. When it comes to Bakhmut direction, of course, main hotspot Bakhmut or Chisovyar direction at this point. Main hotspot is of course Krasnaya, also quite a big, at least territorially speaking, quite a large settlement village. And according to latest reports, Russian forces are continuing their progress, their offensive in direction of Krasnaya or Ivanovskaya, as Ukrainian side is calling this village. And right now, according to latest reports, Russian forces are in control of more than half of this village. Ukrainian units are basically on the southern eastern outskirts of Ivanovskaya or Krasnaya, and well, yet again, maybe before end of this week, this settlement will be under full Russian control. And of course, after that, Russian forces will shift attention towards Chisovyar, and I believe, by the way, towards also Konstantinovka. Towards Konstantinovka, and this is the Konstantinovka, and first gonna be Chisovyar, of course. But same time, I believe Russian forces will start moving towards Konstantinovka also. And when it comes to northern sectors of the front line, no crucial changes was reported by Russian media or military channels. On South Donetsk sector of the front, main hotspot still is Yampolovka, Terny area. Terny formally is Kupiansk sector of the front, but it's located right next to Yampolovka. These 2 villages basically are bordering each other, so therefore I will say that Terny is also Krasny Liman sector. So yes, these 2 settlements are main hotspots, of course, in this Krasny Liman sector of the front line. And in Kupiansk direction, Sinkovka, of course, not far away from Kupiansk itself. Kupiansk is here, by the way, this small town which is divided by Oskol river into halves. And this is Sinkovka settlement. Battles for this settlement continues for a really long time now. And I guess Russian forces are preparing their final push towards to establish full control over this village. And in upcoming weeks, most likely, battle for this settlement will finally end with Russian success, of course. And this is it. This is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. As I said, no crucial changes, at least for now. But of course, if you are interested in more detailed information about these local scale skirmishes, artillery duels, drone strikes, and so on, military channels are providing great volume of information on this topic. So I definitely recommend those. And well, I will continue with some additional news. I'll definitely try to make this update about 30 minutes, so I will go at least through headlines. RIA Novosti's report that railway segment of the Crimean bridge was suspended traffic, and late night yesterday, and until now there is no reports that traffic of trains have been resumed. Although, by the way, before I start recording this update, I see reports on Russian media channels that automobile sector of the Crimean bridge reopened traffic and operates in ordinary manner. There are some channels are reporting that during the night time, Kyiv regime attempted to strike Crimean bridge, conducted combined missile and drone strikes towards Crimea bridge, towards Crimean Peninsula, and according to some channels, even against some Russian patrol boats. We don't really have for this moment any detailed information about it, but because railway section of the bridge, Crimean bridge, reopened traffic, I guess Russian side was able to repel this attempt to strike Crimea bridge from Ukrainian forces, although, of course, information that railway section of the bridge is still not operational creates some rumors that maybe there was some damage to the bridge. But yet again, these reports, reports on channels, military channels, are at this point just speculations. We don't know. And well, me personally, I don't think bridge was damaged, because otherwise auto traffic probably wouldn't be resumed, because these two bridges are right next to each other, like railway section and auto section. But anyway, of course, we have to wait for additional information, and if we will receive some additional news during the day, I will of course report about it on my Telegram, and maybe I will make some additional video update on it. RIA Novosti's report that Zelensky announced some changes of the personnel in the defense forces of Ukraine. So seems like Zelensky is continuing to conduct this purge on militaries, high-ranking military officials in Ukrainian armed forces. First of all, those who are maybe still loyal to Zaluzhny, former head of Ukraine's general staff, and secondly, well, we see some kind of trend now in Ukraine when Zelensky and new head of general staff Syrsky are blaming for failures on the front line commanders of different brigades that are involved in military operations. And well, this is definitely can be seen as a sign of not just decline of morale in Ukrainian armed forces or discipline, but this is definitely a sign of inevitable collapse of Ukrainian armed forces. Only question is when this collapse will happen. Not if, but when this collapse will happen. In a month's time, 2 months' time, 5 months' time, hard to tell, but we definitely have more and more signs that this process has begun and will not stop. Artists report that bombs aren't free for Ukraine. EU tells Zelensky. So Ukraine should not expect the EU to supply it with 1 million artillery rounds for free. The bloc's commissioner for the internal market, Thierry Breton, told the broadcaster France Info on Monday. He also criticized President Vladimir Zelensky for falsely accusing the bloc or EU of failing to deliver on its promises. Asked about the statements of Zelensky, and Zelensky, by the way, last week complained that the EU would miss the target of 520,000 artillery shells that it was supposedly expected to supply to Kiev by March, of the million shells that the European Union promised. Well, asked about the statements of Zelensky on Monday, Breton brushed Zelensky's comments off as a false. The figures cited by Zelensky do not correspond to reality, he said, adding that Kiev expected all the promised shells to be donated, but that had never been the case. I said, provide and not give away for free, Breton told France Info about the pledge made by Brussels last year. He said that bloc expected Ukraine to pay for at least a portion of the supplies. So yes, some divisions, by the way, now between Kiev and Brussels. Not the first time, and definitely not the last time. But well, it's interesting. It's interesting how often nowadays one or another high-ranking official in the West are, there to criticize Zelensky, which is something new, isn't it? You could not see that kind of stuff like even 6, 8, 10 months ago. No. But now, yes, almost every other day, which definitely can be seen as an indicator that, well, clock is ticking for Zelensky and his time is running out as a president of Ukraine, so-called president. RIA Novosti's report that, well, this is, by the way, very big news. I find it difficult to believe in this news, but still, I made media report about it, and I will share with you that, according to Defense Minister of Singapore, US used its F-35s in Ukraine, which is quite a statement to make. Well, according to Ng Hen, Defense Minister of Singapore, Washington used F-35 5th-gen fighter jets to find and locate Russian air defense systems and then provide information about geolocations of Russian air defense system to Ukrainian forces. Well, this is a big deal, of course. This is a big deal. Russian side can easily interpret this information as an act of war, as a direct involvement in the conflict, if true, of course. Well, RIA Novosti contacted Pentagon and asked question about these claims of Singapore's defense minister, and Pentagon denied these claims. Pentagon said that US is not using F-35s in Ukraine, and the US is basically always were saying that US is not involved directly in this conflict, just providing weapon systems. Although, of course, we all know that they are active. US intelligence services are actively involved in this proxy war against Russia. US military personnel is deployed in Ukraine and are operating with the air defense systems, Patriot air defense systems, for example, or HIMARS multi-launch rocket systems. Also, of course, we know that whenever there is a drone or missile strikes on Crimea direction, Usually, NATO surveillance planes are over the Black Sea, not far away from Crimea. In that time, so U.S. is of course involved. U.S. and UK, France, Germany, they are directly involved in this conflict. We all know this, even if they have plausible deniability in their hands right now. But this is big, by the way. This is big because, well, I wonder if F-35s were maybe not used to fly over the Ukraine, but close to Ukraine. I wonder if Russian air defense systems managed to detect it, because this is a 5th-gen fighter jet, and technically speaking, it's supposed to be difficult for radars to detect and track this plane. Maybe sometime in the future we will learn some more. But me personally, I have some doubts that Pentagon is led by such crazy people that they will deploy F-35s in Ukraine to conduct some military operations. I mean, that seems really too crazy even for Biden's administration, by the way. So I don't know. I mean, we need some more information, of course, on this topic. But that's what media is reporting, by the way, including here in Russia. RIA Novosti's report that Macron yet again spoke with the media, and he stated that when he spoke about possible deployments of NATO troops into Ukraine, he did not meant that troops will necessarily be deployed. He meant that, well, all the options are on the table and can be discussed. So basically, he's now kind of trying to decrease this heat over the French leadership because of these crazy statements and calls, basically direct open calls. That's how people see it, to provoke direct war between Russia and NATO. And according to Macron now, France has no plans to deploy troops into Ukraine. Okay, today that's the way that Macron thinks, but tomorrow he may change his opinion again. And this is the issue with the Western ruling elites. I mean, they cannot be trusted. They have 7 Fridays a week. They literally have 7 Fridays every week. One day they can say one thing, second day another, third day something else, and eventually those people just cannot be taken seriously no more. That's how it is. RIA Novosti's report, by the way, that United Kingdom still continues to increase pressure on Germany's government, to force Berlin to send Taurus long-range cruise missiles to Kiev. This was reported by Guardian, British newspaper, and Guardian was citing its sources in the British government. Well, most likely this is correct information, but yet again, in my personal opinion, government of Germany, they are basically occupying. They are representing occupying force, not really German society. And occupying force is first of all US, of course, and then United Kingdom. And therefore, I find it difficult to believe that Washington ordered Scholz to deliver Taurus missiles to Kiev regime, and he refused. I mean, this cannot happen. Scholz is an asset of CIA. I mean, he cannot do nothing and say nothing without permission. Therefore, well, maybe this is just a political games, because in reality, all it takes just one call from Washington, and most likely from London also, and that's it. German government will do whatever they are told to do. RIA Novosti is, which is unfortunate, by the way, but first of all for citizens of Germany, because their country have been run by foreign forces, through the hands of these so-called leaders there, Scholz, Baerbock, and the rest of them. But it is what it is. It is what it is. One day, German society may wake up and throw these puppets of the CIA on the, on the trash yard of the history, and they may make some changes in elites, changes that will, serve German society. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti's report that, well, Russian foreign ministry not just summoned ambassador of Germany, and he went to foreign ministry yesterday, but Russian side also demanded explanations from Berlin about this intercepted talk of high-ranking German military personnel when they were discussing deliveries of Taurus long-range missiles to Ukraine, and also how they're gonna conduct strike on Crimean bridge, and therefore, at same time, maintain plausible deniability on their hands. This is a big issue, of course. This is a big issue, and well, I don't know what ambassador said to Russian foreign ministry, but relationships will definitely not become any better between Moscow and Berlin after those revelations. RIA Novosti's report that, well, Medvedev, by the way, former president of Russian Federation and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, of course, made waves of headlines yesterday with a number of strong statements, and also, by the way, with the map that was presented during his speech in a forum of Knowledge Society, on a marathon of Knowledge Society, and well, this is the maps, by the way. I made a short video yesterday about this topic. So this is the map. This is Medvedev when he was giving speech, and that's the map that was presented behind him. And if we take a closer look, this is the map, by the way. And as you can see here, from Ukraine, is only Kiev, and the Kiev region is left, basically. Only Kiev and surrounding areas, southern, central, northern, and eastern parts of Ukraine are represented as a part of Russia, and western regions of Ukraine represented as a part of Poland, Hungary, and Romania. And you know my take on Ukrainian crisis. I said many times before that, in my personal opinion, after this conflict will end, I mean 99%, I will give 99% that there will be no more Ukraine on political map, and I was leaving just 1%, just slight chance for 1% that maybe Kiev and surrounding areas will remain as a landlocked quasi-state. And well, after Medvedev's speech, when well, behind him was this map, and of course he knew about it, undoubtedly, I guess percentage chances that Ukraine as a quasi-state will remain after this conflict, even in this tiny size, Kiev and surrounding areas, chances for that significantly increase, I guess, because even though Medvedev maybe was displaying his own take on the situation, his personal opinion and personal reading of the big picture, but after all, he is a former president of Russian Federation, maybe future president of Russian Federation, and current deputy chairman of the Security Council. So like it or not, but his statements may, not always, but at least sometime, may represent a point of view of Kremlin, official Moscow. It is possibility, of course, and by the way, Dmitry Medvedev made headlines yesterday not just because of that map, but also because he stated that there can be negotiations with the Kiev regime. Current regime in Kiev is impossible. He was very clear about it, and he said that special military operation will continue to the end, and only way it will end when Kiev regime will capitulate. Also strong statement. And of course, Medvedev once again highlighted that Ukrainians are inseparable part of Russian society, Russian world, and Russian society, for a reason, thinks exactly the same way, that Ukrainians are part of the Russian world, and Ukraine is a Russia. Ukraine is a Russia. That's how he sees, and that's how many people see the situation. So yes, Medvedev quite often does make headlines, by the way, and yesterday he was well, extremely effective on that. All the media outlets, at least here in Russia, by the way, reported about his statements, about this map. I didn't know about Western states, if they highlighted anything from his speech. But you tell me in comment section if you see any reports about this in the Western media. RT is reporting that West won't win proxy war against Russia, according to Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary. Well, he is once again demonstrates that he is not really afraid to go against the main narrative of the Western ruling class, which still maintains this false propaganda that Russia should be defeated on the battlefield, which is total nonsense and was nonsense from very beginning. So yes, Orban, you know, he demonstrates that despite Saturn, I mean, of course, he's not as free as probably he would like to be. Brussels have immense influence, Washington, London. But he definitely tries at least to overcome some barriers and demonstrate that, I mean, Hungary is maintaining at least some level of sovereignty, which is rare stuff, by the way, in modern Europe among EU member states. But anyway, let's continue. And RT, by the way, well, Medvedev again, Dmitry Medvedev, he commented yesterday also about incident that took place in Moscow when Russian Foreign Ministry called for a meeting ambassadors of number of EU member states, and those ambassadors did not arrive. And this meeting is supposed to take place before presidential elections, and some topics should be discussed with ambassadors because Moscow is not happy that certain embassies are not really acting as a diplomatic missions, but as some kind of political players, which is inside Russia, by the way, which is involvement in internal affairs, of course, and Moscow cannot be happy about it. And of course, there were some other topics also. There are many topics, by the way, that Moscow and EU representatives could discuss, and they did not came to this meeting. Those EU ambassadors refused to come to this meeting, and this is, but when I read information, by the way, I was kind of outraged. I was thinking, what the hell, man? These people are ambassadors. If they are not attending meetings in Russian Foreign Ministry, then what they are doing in Russia at all? Because this is their job. That's why they are receiving salaries. And seems like it's not just me who was outraged, many other people also, and Medvedev included, and he said that EU ambassadors should be kicked out from Russia. So let's read several sentences. Some ambassadors from the European Union member states should be expelled from Russia, former President Dmitry Medvedev said, citing their refusal to discuss election meddling with the Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov. Ambassadors of the EU states to Russia declined a meeting with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, allegedly following some advice from Brussels. Medvedev wrote on X, formerly Twitter, on Monday, "This goes totally against the very idea of the extent of diplomatic missions and assignments of ambassadors. All these ambassadors should be kicked out of Russia and the level of diplomatic relations should be demoted." Medvedev, who is currently the deputy chairman of the Russia Security Council, wrote, "Slammed EU diplomats as political imbeciles who do not comprehend their real tasks." So very strong statements, of course, and who knows, by the way, maybe because the issue is really serious, one. Maybe those ambassadors really will be kicked out of Russia, and diplomatic relationships, level of diplomatic relationships between Russia and those EU member states that those ambassadors were representing will be downgraded significantly. It is possible, undoubtedly, and artists report that US reportedly wants to drag Japan into Asian NATO. The US is reportedly in discussions with the UK and Australia about inviting Japan to take part in weapons development under the AUKUS security partnership. Outlet Nikkei Asia claimed on Saturday, citing US officials. And well, this is a big deal, of course. AUKUS was created not for nothing. It has its purpose, and main purpose is to deter China or to combat China, basically. And of course, Washington will try to bring more countries into this organization or close to it. And Japan, of course, will be one of the first ones. Japan, South Korea, you name it, man. They will try to bring closer to AUKUS every country in the region. And in some cases, they will definitely succeed, most likely. RIA Novosti's report that today head of IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, will visit Russia. And maybe he will have a meeting with the Russian president. I'm extremely critical of Rafael Grossi. I think he is an asset of CIA. I think IAEA itself, this organization itself, is asset and tool in hands of Western ruling class. And therefore, I have no trust towards not this person, not this organization. But, well, Moscow is, seems like Moscow still have some, I mean, maybe not trust, but have to play according to some rules. And well, that's why this criminal and mass murderer, because he's a participant of all the crimes that Kyiv regime committed, because he never ever stated that Zaporozhye nuclear power plant was shelled by Kyiv regime forces. So this is definitely mass murderer and criminal, and should never be allowed to step feet into Russia. But whatever the case, man, whatever the case, fuck him, this bitch, man. Sorry, by the way, but I hate those disgraceful puppets of the Western ruling elites, man. They cannot be respected, that's all. Well, TASS news agencies report that, Trump will remain on ballots in the Colorado. Supreme Court in the US made such a decision, and yet again, by the way, we clearly are seeing that, well, in this particular case, okay, Supreme Court voted based on Constitution of US, which is somewhat surprising after what we see in US, but by Trump itself definitely was and is prosecuted illegally just because he is a political opponent of current regime in Washington. And this decision of Supreme Court cannot change this reality on the ground. And one should always remember, when they see high-ranking officials from US will start talking about democracy and a free judiciary and free this and free that, free speech, basic human rights and all of it, just remember what US does internally to political opponents, regimes in US, and how fake they really are, those so-called officials in Washington. RTs report that, unsurprisingly, by the way, Zelensky called Polish farmers protests blockade beyond morality. At this point, nobody cares about Zelensky, of course. So Polish farmers have no right, according to Zelensky, to protect themselves just because Zelensky wants it that way. Really? Artists report that Musk's X could face new EU restrictions. That's another example of freedom of speech, by the way, in the West. And TASS news agency is reporting that Sion, by the way, Russian institution that conducts social studies, shared information with public that about 80% of Russian citizens are planning to participate during the presidential elections that will take place on between 15th and 17th March this month. This will be a 3-day March, isn't it? 3-day election. I don't know yet if I will participate in these elections. TASS news agencies report EU will refuse to continue contracts for transit of Russian gas in 2025, transit of Russian gas through Ukraine in 2025. Current contracts will end in 2024. And well, this is a significant topic. Yesterday, Shmyhal, Prime Minister of Ukraine, even made statements that Ukraine is ready to prolong transit contracts if EU member states or Brussels wants to, but this is answer from Brussels. They don't want it. They want to cut ties with Russia as much as possible, and okay, Russia can live with this, but Kyiv regime will definitely lose significant income because as a result of Russian gas transit, Kyiv regime was receiving billions and billions every single year. And this is it, by the way, for a, well, not really short news update. 41 minutes already, but hopefully you will find this update interesting and informative. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. More likes and comments will definitely help to reach wider audience on both platforms, on Rumble and YouTube. And for very same reason, to reach wider audience, please share links to my videos or my channels with your friends on any of the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you think this channel is interesting, informative, useful, maybe even little entertaining, and deserves to exist in this world of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see all the links in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.